When Muslims ruled large parts of the world, they allowed people of all faiths to live, work, and practice their religions freely. Jews and Christians, called people of the book, were given protection and rights under Islamic law. They could run schools, courts, and religious activities, and participate in administration and trade. n.wikipedia.org. Other communities, such as Hindus in India, were also protected and allowed to maintain their religious and cultural practices, and they contributed to governance, trade, and culture. Some of the historical examples of thriving societies are Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain during 711 to 1492 CE. In Spain, under the Muslim rule, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together peacefully. Cities like Córdoba and Granada became centers of science, medicine, philosophy, and arts. Scholars of all religions translated books, shared knowledge, and advanced education. Source: philosophy.institute. This period is called convivencia, meaning living together, because different religions thrived and contributed to a rich culture. Source: philosophy.institute. The Ottoman Empire. Between 1299 and 1922, the Ottomans had a system called millet, which allowed Jews, Christians, and other minorities to govern their own communities. They could run schools, religious courts, and cultural institutions while being loyal citizens of the state. Source: alhakam.org. For example, Jews expelled from Spain in 1492 were welcomed in the Ottoman Empire, especially in Istanbul, which became a center of Jewish learning and culture. Source: arjic.com. See Mughal India under Akbar between 1556 and 1605. In India, Emperor Akbar abolished the jizya tax on non-Muslims and introduced sul-e-kul, meaning peace with all. Hindus, Christians, and other communities worked in government, trade, and culture. Schools, arts, and sciences flourished under this policy. Source: howtests.com. When the British took control of India after the Battle of Plassey in 1757, many traditional systems of trade, crafts, and education were replaced, and economic growth slowed. Tirthankar Roy, professor of economic history at the London School of Economics, explains that India's economy lagged far behind Britain's during colonial rule. Source: wikipedia.org. The Historical Society at Boston University shows that from 1857 to 1947, India's per capita GDP grew only 19%, while Britain's grew 134%. Source: BU.edu. Angus Madison's historical GDP data confirms that India's share of world income fell from nearly 25% in 1700 to under 4% in 1947. Source: reddit.com. Adabhai Naoroji, writing in Poverty and Un-British Rule in India in 1901, noted that wealth was taken out of India to Britain without being reinvested locally. Weakening Indian society, however, during Muslim rule, wealth generated in India was reinvested locally, allowing cities and regions to flourish economically. Source: wikipedia.org. Under Mughal rule, India was a center of world manufacturing and trade, especially in textiles. According to economic history research, Mughal India produced about 28% of the world's industrial output before the 18th century, with textiles, shipbuilding, and steel being major exports. This made the subcontinent one of the richest economies of the early modern world. Bengal, particularly around Dhaka, dominated global textile trade, exporting muslin, cotton, and silk to markets across Asia and Europe. At times, Bengal produced more than half of all Indian textiles exported, and European powers, including Dutch and Portuguese merchants, competed for these goods because of their high demand. These facts are supported by the New Cambridge History of India, the Mughal Empire, a standard university-level academic book, and by recent economic research papers that Mughal India, among the richest global economies of its time. For over 1,300 years, Palestine was governed under Muslim rule, from the Caliphate period through the Ottoman Empire. During this time, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived continuously in the land, practicing their religions freely and sharing cities, markets, and institutions. Historian Mark Tesler, in his book A History of the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict, Indiana University Press, states that Palestine under Ottoman Muslim rule was religiously plural and socially stable, with long-established Muslim and Christian Arab communities and Jewish communities living as protected religious minorities, particularly in Jerusalem, Safad, Tiberias, and Hebron. Justin McCarthy, professor of history at the University of Louisville, writes in The Population of Palestine that Palestine's demographic structure remained stable for centuries under Muslim governance, with no large-scale population displacement, and with local land ownership and agriculture continuing uninterrupted. However, Palestine under British mandate between 1917 and 1948, things shifted. After World War I, Britain controlled Palestine. The Balfour Declaration promised support for a Jewish national home, but also promised not to harm non-Jewish communities. Historians note that British policies shifted land and population, creating tension and displacement of Palestinian Muslims and Christians. Source: mypluralist.com. Unlike the centuries of relative stability under previous Muslim governance, this period saw social unrest and decline in local systems. Justin McCarthy further notes that British-era policies led to demographic shock, social tension, and displacement of Palestinian Muslims and Christians, marking a sharp break from the centuries of continuity under Muslim administration. Muslim governance allowed religious endowments, waqf, to fund churches, synagogues, mosques, schools, hospitals, and public kitchens. Let's talk about thriving non-Muslim communities under Muslim rule today. 1. United Arab Emirates, UAE. The UAE officially promotes tolerance and religious coexistence. The Baps Hindu temples in Abu Dhabi is government-supported, and Hindus, Christians, and others participate in cultural events. Jewish residents celebrated festivals openly, especially after the Abraham Accords, reporting that they felt safe and respected. 2. Iran's Jewish community. Iran is home to the second-largest Jewish population in the Middle East outside Israel, with synagogues, schools, and legal protections. Jews have reserved seats in parliament and can practice religion safely. 3. Other Gulf countries. Millions of Hindus, Christians, and Sikhs live, work, and worship in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and other Muslim-majority nations, often legally recognized. 4. Indonesia. Christians, Hindus, and Buddhists in Indonesia openly celebrate Christmas, Easter, Nyepi, and Vesak, with public holidays, churches, temples, and national recognition. 5. Malaysia. Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, and Sikhs in Malaysia freely celebrate Deepavali, Christmas, Wesak Day, and Thaipusam, with public processions, temples, and national holidays. 6. Bahrain. Christians, Hindus, Jews, and other minorities in Bahrain openly worship in churches, temples, and synagogues, and celebrate their religious festivals without state interference. 7. Bangladesh. Hindus and Buddhists in Bangladesh publicly celebrate Durga Puja, Saraswati Puja, and Buddha Purnima with government security support and nationwide observance. In summary, under Muslim rule, religious minorities thrived in administration, education, trade, science, and culture. Source: argic.com. British colonial rule caused economic decline, deindustrialization, and social disruption in India and Palestine. Source: Bu-Idu. Even today, several Muslim-majority countries protect religious minorities, allowing them to practice faith, contribute to society, and live safely. Source: manaramagazine.org. This history shows how Islamic governance historically and in some regions today fosters pluralism, prosperity, and harmony for all communities. So why do we still see Muslims being targeted in some majority Christian or Hindu countries? such as the USA, India, and the UK? Is it paid media spreading misinformation, or envy toward a structured God-fearing way of life, or simply ignorance?